servants to resume work on Monday next week. Edo Zonal NAPTIP secures conviction of a mother and son to 5 years in prison. INEC fixes date for 2023 presidential election. On entertainment, singer Oxlade's manager suffers brain injury after police assault. And in sport, federal government has banned uncounted sports. Details of this and more after this break. I'm Benjamin Kadu. Directed civil servants who have not been going to work since March this year, when the lockdown declared to control the spread of coronavirus COVID-19 started, to resume work come Monday, October 19th. The chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, and the national coordinator, Sani Aliyu, disclosed this at a press briefing of the task force Thursday. Only civil servants of salary grade level 12 and above, as well as those on essential duties, have been going to work. The PTF also directed that civil servants below salary grade level 12 can now resume work. It also directed ministries, departments, and agencies to ensure that they alternate the days the civil servants will be at work in order to ensure social distancing. The Benin Zonal Command of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, says the agency's fight against human trafficking is yielding results, as a state high court in Benin City on Thursday, presided over by Honorable Justice Erama, sentenced a mother and her son to 5 years in prison with no option of 1 million naira fine each for trafficking a lady to Italy. KFM Lebeduma Sagwaram was there and tells us more.
The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP Benin Zonal Commander Ijoma Udwak, while speaking with journalists on Thursday, said the agency has fulfilled one of its mandates, which is prosecution. Mrs. Udwak noted that the two convicts pleaded guilty to the crime, saying the young lady was deceived from Benin City, where she was taken to Italy.
So they deceived this young girl to Italy, where she was exploited for 3 good years. In fact, the girl came back with a baby that has no father. So upon getting to Nigeria from Mali, we rescued her. Then she gave us a lift. We got the suspects arrested, mother and son, that aided and aggravated moving her from Benin City here down to Italy. So today the hammer of the law was on their heads. Today we are convicted of 5 years imprisonment for the auction of 1 million naira each. Their conviction was on the section of the NAPTIP Act, section 13, subsection 14C of the NAPTIP Act 2015 amended.
The convicted woman, Juliana Ozegbe, and her son, Ehins Ozegbe, who hails from Uromi in Esan Northeast local government area of Edo State, say all they did was to help the lady who lived with them, having lost both parents.
This guy stayed in my house almost 2 years with 5 children. Then this guy can't be back. He know if he survive like this. He want travel. Now he take travel. Since 6 years and some months now, you know, I not hear from them again. Not call me. Later, I come here say the guy don't marry for day born. So me not can understand why he come to arrest me when I did this progresses.
So the girl in my house before they don't say no girl find no girl man. The younger one, me I do ties work. Come, they say they know it. Party come for work, party do the money to take up. So when I see the complaint, say no go fit do this thing. If they get anybody in one help me they help. And so one woman go to tell my mom say people won't carry petty travel. Now you get it also go go. So now so the matter I reach out. Me I'm surprised see at the house. So they just come say we don't under arrest. So now we take we share. We be here for almost 3 months now they talk the matter.
Why they pleaded guilty to the charges, the convict saying they were told they introduced the lady to the person who trafficked her to Italy, who is now late.
And the woman don't even late safe. I'm not guessing now they say na me introduce as in na my introduction for common side. I'm not getting paid when they pay. In no day, 1 naira, God bear the influence, 1 naira, nobody get to pay me.
The Benin Zonal Command of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, says it will continue to institutionalize early warning mechanism to prevent human trafficking at the community and grassroots level in Edo State. Neredum Asagwaram, QFM.
The Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly, Honorable Marcus Onobu, has congratulated Edo State's Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Honorable Tony Azegbemi, for outcome of the September 19th governorship election, which turned out victorious for the party. The Speaker conveyed his message of congratulations on Thursday when 7 members of the PDP visited the State Secretariat of the party on a thank-you visit.
Throughout the election, all honorable members have gone to their various wards to pick the membership card of the PDP, after which we wrote to the Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly informing the institution that we are formally switched camp from the All Progressive Congress to the People's Democratic Party. And since that has been done, we thought it wise to come and pay a courtesy visit to our state secretariat and the state leadership of our party, and to also thank them for giving our governor the platform to run, and of course supported the governor to win his re-election.
Speaking on behalf of the State Executive Working Committee present at the meeting, the State Chairman of the PDP, Honorable Tony Azegbemi, said he is interested in what happens in the State Assembly as he believes in the doctrine of the separation of power. He, however, craved for a cordial relationship between all arms of government in Edo State.
We are happy that they are dedicating their loyalty to the People's Democratic Party, of which they were members from barely 10 days ago. But basically, we were a little bit worried as a party with the happenings in the House of Assembly, and we thought that this was perhaps the best time to really call them in and ask questions, what happened and the way forward. As a party, we were worried because of the perception of instability that might go out there to scare investors from coming to Edo State to invest. And so we've been reassured that what happened last time was the first and the last that will happen in the foreseeable future for us to have some stability going forward.
Present during the thank-you visit was the former Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Honorable Francis Okiye. Meanwhile, the Speaker and the PDP members of the House also paid a thank-you visit to the former chairman of the party in the state, Chief Dan Obi, who is the current vice chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, South-South. The All Progressives Congress governorship candidate in last election in Edo State, Pastor Osagie Izeyamu, who is being prosecuted for alleged 700 million naira fraud, has challenged the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court, Edo State. Izeyamu, who was governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in 2016, was accused of receiving 700 million naira during the run-up to the 2015 presidential election. He was subsequently arraigned alongside 4 others, including a former deputy governor of Edo State, Lucky Imasuen. At the resumption of trial on Thursday, however, Izeyamu's lawyer, Charles Elusola San, informed the court that he had filed a motion challenging its jurisdiction on the grounds that the charges filed against the defendants are based on election matters. However, the prosecuting counsel, Francis Jumbo, countered the argument with the submission that the information before the court is a money laundering charge for which the Federal High Court has exclusive jurisdiction. After listening to both counsel, Justice M.G. Umar adjourned the case till January 20th, 2021 for a ruling. Izeyamu and other defendants were first arraigned before Justice P.I. Ajoku on 8 counts of money laundering on May 24th, 2018. The Senate on Thursday passed the 2021 budget for second reading after a 3-day debate on its general principles. The President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, asked the Committee on Appropriation to work on the fiscal document and report back in 4 weeks. President Muhammadu Buhari had presented 13.08 trillion naira budget estimates to the joint session of the National Assembly last Thursday for the consideration of the federal lawmakers. Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Yakubu on Thursday said Nigeria is 855 days away from the 2023 general elections. Speaking at the inauguration of the House of Representatives Committee on Constitution Review, Yakubu urged the National Assembly to work fast on the exercise ahead of the polls. He said the 2023 presidential election is scheduled to hold on 18th of February 2023. Protesters against police brutality and extrajudicial killings have taken their demonstration to the National Assembly complex in Abuja, the nation's capital. The protesters, in their numbers on Thursday, stormed the complex displaying placards lamenting extrajudicial killings and demanding justice for victims of police brutality. They sang songs of solidarity, recited the national anthem, and chanted "End SWAT, End SARS." The spokesperson of the Senate, Ajibola Bashiru, accompanied by the Senate Committee Chairman on Police, Aliyu Jika, later addressed the protesters. The protesters, however, insisted that they should be addressed. By Senate President Ahmad Lawan. Meanwhile, the Senate President says the federal government has met the demands of the protesters and that there is no need for any further protests. In the House of Representatives, the Speaker inaugurated the Special Committee on the Review of the Constitution. The committee is led by the Deputy Speaker, Ahmed Wasi. Thousands of protesters across the country have been protesting in the last 1 week against the harassment, extortion, and extrajudicial killings perpetrated by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, of the Nigeria Police Force. The police authorities, in response to the outcry of the protesters, disbanded the SARS unit and announced the setting up of the Special Weapons and Tactics SWAT unit as its replacement. But the protests and demonstrations continue nationwide with hashtags, #EndSWAT, #EndSARS, #EndPoliceBrutality, dominating social media trends. Hoodlums on Thursday stormed Lagos Government House, Alausa, and attacked #EndSARS protesters. They arrived in BRT buses, chasing the protesters away with clubs and cutlasses. The hoodlums were also reported to have stormed the Baja end of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to disrupt the peaceful protest. According to the protesters, who slept overnight in the area, the hoodlums arrived around 8 a.m. in large numbers. An eyewitness said they came in about 20 buses. Debo Adebayo, popularly known as MC Macaroni, in a series of tweets also recounted how they were chased away. As at the time of this report, the protesters have regrouped and returned to the entrance of the Lagos Assembly. Meanwhile, the Lagos State government has denied sponsoring thugs to disrupt the #EndSARS protest in the commercial city. Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Benga Omotosho, in a statement, said the allegations trending in social media are concocted by enemies of peace and orderliness to whip up sentiment against the government, which has been doing everything possible to resolve the crisis by identifying with the protesting youth in their efforts towards police reforms. Omotosho said the insinuations in the social media they were sponsored by the government. They were sponsored by the government because they came in BRT buses was not correct. The commissioner assured the government will never encourage thuggery or any act of violence that may put the lives and businesses of Lagosians at risk. Coming up in a moment after this break, MidCom chief demands justice for Nigerian burnt to death in Libya.
At split seconds, there is a lot happening around us, but we can't be everywhere all the time. We've got work, families, and chores to cater to, and most importantly, time to rest. And that's why having a reliable partner like KUFM News is important. Sleeping? You don't. We work round the clock
now to Anambra State, where the governor, Willie Obiano, has sacked his security aide, James Nwafo. Nwafo, who was a senior special advisor to the governor on security, was relieved of his duty following allegations of #EndSARS protesters in Awka on Thursday. They alleged that Nwafo violated people's rights during his reign as the commander of SARS in Anambra. The protesters accused Nwafo of killing many youths in the state during his tenure in SARS. The protesters have blocked the Anambra State Government House and the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway, insisting that Obiano must address them. Addressing the protesters, Obiano said he would take their demands to President Muhammadu Buhari and handle the ones within his powers. The protesters, who were visibly happy about the governor's pronouncement having sacked his security aide, James Nwafo, marched to the popular Aroma Junction, where they blocked the expressway. Government has approved the reopening of all camps where the National Youth Service Corps orientation exercises hold on 10th of November 2020. The Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dari, made this known in a tweet on Thursday morning. He said the resumption of the NYC orientation camp for prospective youth corps members has been approved and opened on November 10, 2020, with full enforcement of COVID-19 protocols. The federal government had ordered the closure of the NYC orientation camps nationwide over coronavirus fears on 18th of March. Coming up in a moment on our entertainment news, Nigerian singer Runtown set to lead #EndSARS protest in Lagos. Still on to news break on KF 2.7 FM. All the tracks on his own label under Republic Records. The release marked a break from Motown, his home since 1962. Speaking by Zoom from his Southern California home, he said he began writing one of the songs, The Fluid, Where Is Our Love Song, when he was 18 in 1968. He recently completed it with new lyrics, the newly cut track featuring Gary Clark Jr. on guitar. Proceeds from the song sales will benefit Feeding America, which Wanda says has requested $1 billion in donations to help families in need around the country. And in sports, the national coordinator of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Dr. Sani Aliyu, in a briefing in Abuja on Thursday, said the federal government have decided to ease the restriction on sporting activities. This and more in our sports desk.
The federal government of Nigeria has lifted the suspension of football and other counter sports on the country with effect from Monday, 19 October 2020. The national coordinator of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Dr. Sani Aliyu, in a briefing in Abuja on Thursday, said the federal government have decided to ease the restrictions in sporting activities. He said the decision was arrived at after consultation with Sports Ministry and the National Center for Disease Control, NCDC. Aliyu, however, announced that the games would take place behind closed doors. Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dari, said the removal of the ban and it was a welcome development. The announcement came as a relief to the country's athletes who had been in dark over the resumption of counter sport after a 7-month break. Still talking sport in Nigeria, discussions over a possible return of the 2020 National Sports Festival will take center stage at the National Council on Sports meeting next week in Lagos. The letter dated October 7 and signed by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Gabriel Aduda, and sent to all state ministries and sports commission. The 2020 National Sports Festival is one of the items for discussion. The event scheduled in the letter states that the technical session, which will be chaired by Aduda with peers of sports ministries in the 36 states in attendees, and will be held on October 22nd, while the council meeting takes place the next day. The National Council of Sports comprises the sports minister, Sunday Diary, who is the chairman and also commissioner of sports or their equivalent from the 36 states of the federation, and the secretary in charge of sport in the Federal Capital Territory. The National Sports Festival, which was earlier scheduled from March 22nd to April 1st, was postponed indefinitely due to COVID-19. And that's it for sports. Back to you, Benjamin. Thank you, Vincent.
But before we go, a quick recap of the headlines. Federal government directs all civil servants to resume work on Monday next week. And also NAPTIP secures conviction of a mother and son to 5 years in prison. INEC fixes date for 2023 presidential election. Do remember that the continued unity of Nigeria is a collective responsibility. Be sure to play your part. Do not forget, you can listen to us anywhere in the world by visiting our website at www.kufm.net or download our mobile app from the Google Play Store. We're also live on YouTube at KUFM Nigeria, and you can also listen to us on radiogarden.com. KFM News Break was produced by Musakai Wajai.